Yes, now it says the clock is running, so it started the recording. So yeah, good. We finally we're doing our first episode for the for the viewers at home and for us also. Basically, what we want to do and what we are doing is the East African Social Review, sister publication to the East African Sauna Review, but more about that in another channel. Uh, my name is Jussi. I'm currently in Pristina, Kosovo. It's here in the background. And yeah, I was in Somalia for a few years, so I kind of know a little bit from that perspective. And of course, our first topic here is Somalia because we want to do country-based reviews of or kind of discussions on the countries in the region. So since my good friend Ahmed is here, and we well anyway, Ahmed, you can introduce yourself, but we thought of just jumping in and starting the discussion with Somalia, and we haven't really rehearsed because we thought that not to make it sound rehearsed. So we'll take it as a spontaneous discussion and we'll see how it goes. It's our first time doing this. As you can see, we don't have, because in those podcasts, what they have, I was thinking like they have a microphone, like a big microphone. So we should get those maybe later, but we'll just do this first one as it is, and then see how it goes. But Ahmed, you can introduce yourself, I think.
Oh, thank you so much, Juicy. My name is Ahmed Ibrahim, and I'm from Somalia and working in Somalia. For the last 10 to 15 years, I was working the peace building process and of Somalia, along with Juicy. I've been working with international diplomatic missions, the UN, and non-governmental actors, and as well as the government of Somalia. Academically, I'm holder of MS in Global Leadership and Peace Building from King's School in London, and in there I was, a Peace, Security and Development Fellowship with African Leadership Center, which then led me, to address the security, peace, and humanitarian nexus of the Horn of Africa, particularly Somalia and South Sudan, and it gives me like solid background for this area. We'll talk about today, the possible peace in Somalia and why Somalia cannot be peaceful. We will need to discuss regional dimensions. First of all, the historical background of the country before we deeply discuss why Somalia is still in fragile context. Yes, of course. The Somali name has adapted the word of fragile or failed state. And even in this 21st century, there's a word that has been included in English language called Somalicization, which represents chaos, violence, and statelessness. So why the country that locates a very vital geographical location ended up in this history? So before we discuss the current situation, let's have a glimpse about the historical governance before the colonial period of Somalia started. The historical governance of the Somali people, how the society structured themselves, how they had their own social control, and would that help them to, establish a modern state, in this capitalist system which has been inherited by the European colonialism after independence of Africa in 1950s, 60s. Somalis are considered as a nomadic society, mainly Muslim, around over 98%. And we might have, as a Somalis, agro society. We might have, society, fishery society. But the Somali population, over 85%, are nomad by culture. It's among the few homogeneous people in Horn of Africa compared to it is never Ethiopia that hosts over 60 plus different ethnic groups, different languages. The Somalis has that opportunity of being one ethnic group, or they might have some ethnicity, but majority of them are all Somali speakers. So why a country that share that history cannot have a peace and stability and become the most failed state in the whole world? And as President Museveni once said, it can be described as the shame of Africa. What went wrong white Somalis couldn't rule
Yeah,
themselves.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you go back, like the history of the Somali society before the colonial masters come up, Somalis had their own a clan structured system where certain area of certain clans occupied in certain areas, and clan means a group of people who share a lineage, hailed from one ancestor, and then have their own sub clans.
Right.
So
Can
these
I,
clans,
sorry, it's good. It's very this is very interesting. The clan, because of course we there's a class, the concept of the clan and the concept of the tribe. How do these things? I mean, how do they relate to each other? Clan is a tribe, or is something different? I mean, you said the
no,
lineage and
basically, when you use the word of tribe, it's more, in a bigger picture. Like we could say, like Oromo or Somalis or
yes,
Cushitic people are one
okay,
tribe. But when we say clan, we mean sub-tribe, less than or sub-ethnic group. Like certain people from Somaliland are from that clan, and then each clan will have a sub-clan, and that sub-clan will have sub-sub-clan till it ended. You know, maybe a group of family who share same great great grandfather, for
right,
instance.
yeah. So
So
okay,
the
so
clan,
so it's like there basically it's a actual blood relation, whereas in a tribe, I mean, people are not
it's
necessarily
yeah,
related. They're not related
it's
by blood
mainly
necessarily.
it's mainly a blood relation from a father side because the Somali society are like many other Muslim majority countries are male dominated. Or the child will follow the names of his father and great great grandfathers.
Right. Okay, sorry, I interrupted you. And the other
So
question
basically,
is about this. You mentioned religion, and I mean, we've spoken about this, of course, before. Like that, what role did religion play? Let's say in the last centuries in Somali society. Is it something? Is it new, or is it was something that was always there?
basically, if you look at, if you deeply observe how the Islamic thoughts influence Somali society, I could say, as any other religion, the Islamic religion has two thoughts: the thought of worship and the thought of social structure or
Mm,
social control. So I think Somalis might have certain cultures inherited from the Islam itself, but they are not dominantly, practicing Islamic principles to govern the society at all.
right.
But they might practice certain cultures because we still have our own indigenous African mechanisms, which nowadays has been left behind, which is destroyed, and that's why Somalia is in trouble. I could describe that the African traditional concepts of Somalis and social control have been weakened or basically often forgotten. And because of that, the Somali people are in chaos more than they have been before the state building or modern state come to us. That means back days, they have their own customary laws, which was
Yeah.
more indigenous, which were more responsive to their social needs. If you look, the EASR customary law of the Somali clans in Djibouti or in Dirdaba, which share the same ethnicity or same cultures with the Somalis in Somalia or Somaliland. Or if you look at Darod, we call Darod customary laws, which govern the marriage process, which govern the sorting out assets, which governs, works well with the justice framework of the Somali society. Or,
Yeah.
that thing was more stronger than Islam, and it has been left more in 1980s, 85, when the Wahhabism ideology came up in the Middle East and was sold, spread well by the Saudi and Middle East countries using the oil dollar. So that kind of culture has full influence with Somali society and destroyed any indigenous mechanisms to sort out the social governance. So, and that's why I believe, like nowadays, Uh, for instance, the dress code, for instance, the marriage relations, the family relations was based on indigenous African culture, where people think collectively and were connected to their spiritual and ancestral, families, instead of being more individualism. And the Islamic thoughts have literally, encouraged the family connections and collectively thinking, but at the same time, it destroys the local values, the dress codes, and it's as Ali Mazrui and Mombasian Kenyan African scholar said, as many other Africans are struggling with tribal heritage, the heritage we inherited from the colonial masters, the heritage we inherited from the Islamic Islamization through Arab traders, and our indigenous culture, civilization, African civilization, were in clash, and that's why
Yeah.
many countries are still in stuck nowadays, even in Sudan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So socially, the social governance of the Somali people back days were more structured in clan. Each clan has elder, so the name might be different, but the responsibility were more or less the same. Like if you look, people like eastern of Somalia, northeastern of Somalia, they may have what we call Bokor. If you go deep to the central regions of Somalia, we have Ugas, and then if you go to the southwest, we have Malak, or if you go to the south, we have Imam, or Ugas, whatsoever. All these leaders were strong in the society. They were governing by providing social governance. Number one, if assaults or crimes related killing, the crimes are divided two in Somalia generally. When you look the governance of justice framework of Somalis, it's either Qon or it's either Khan. Qon means like assault, something related to not bad, and Khan means a criminal offense which related to killing or hurting or wounding a person. And both things have their own customary laws to be sorted out. Also, the society within that structure correspond the environmental issues. Like Muhammad Hawadani has passed in 1600 customary law to govern the Franksons communities. Franksons is a holy tree mainly found in Portland and Somaliland, and was one of the richest products we produce still today even, and it's mainly a source of raw material for the pure
Yeah.
aromatic
Yeah.
chemicals like essential oils. So these Frankston communities have their own regulations passed by their elders back days, 1600, and that regulations involve like environmental protection regulations, regulations related to how trees themselves will be inherited family to family, how the resource
True.
will be
True.
shared, and
No.
how uh, you know one time you can harvest and when you cannot harvest. All of that governance were passed
Yes.
by
From that clan structure. No. It's
traditional elders.
this is really fascinating. I think we need to
Yeah,
study
so
this.
when you look that time, Somalis might rule themselves. But Ali Masrur, if I go back to, if I cite what he said, he said like the basically the nomadic society
Yeah.
are less governed when you look the agro society, because agro society are already settled. They have
Yeah. Who can harvest where? Well,
kind of choose to
simply
develop
like that.
themselves. I still, yeah, you don't know even your neighbor next month or next year.
True.
You might,
True. True.
Move from one
Yeah,
place to
no, I
another
mean, we
place.
have to do, we
And
have to, I
that's
think
what
we have
making
to
it.
do an episode where we go into more depth into, because it's, the clan structure and then the kind of social regulation that emanates from that structure. It's very fascinating and how that then, because of course, if you look at societies that are governed by Islamic principles, then how to reconcile actually the traditional with an Islamic system. It's of course, as you mentioned, it's a huge challenge. And then when you add on top the European influence, let's say, which we can come to a bit later, and also I'm seeing the recording. I mean, our connection is not the best, so we'll have to figure that one out for the next, so we don't lose any of these precious insights that you're giving us. So, but what about the if we move to the current situation, let's say. Uh, what do you, how would you, where do you think Somalia is like right now? What is going on in Somalia?
basically, right now, as scholars describe it, yeah, after the independence, we had one of the best democracies in Africa, what Professor Abdul Samatar called the first democracy in Africa, the first country in Africa that has held free and fair elections, where the president hand over, to his successor. And after that, the country got a military coup, which led them to dysfunctionality and state collapse till from 1991 to today. And Somalis are now disintegrated society based on clan rivalries, based on basically existence of terrorist groups, bad leadership that cannot compromise neither create efficient for the people, and who may not have competence even to do that, even if they will. Sorry, even if they're willing to make a better future for the people, our current leaders, are fully agreed that they cannot or not have the competence, the experience. You look all their backgrounds. Some police commissioners have Paris background, while others have, criminal background, convicted in courts. So when you look at that kind of leadership, accused looting public resources, having no record of academic, strong academic background or skills or leadership experience, with no vision rather than being in the position, that makes the people to be desperate, and we become the producers of immigrants, famine, lack of justice. Imagine a country where the basic law and order, the traffic light doesn't work. So, like, from that point, you can feel where the traffic lights, whether you drive your right or left, or how you will drive your car in the road we all share, where there's no there's no regulations,
I mean,
governing it.
yeah. So, because I remember when we were there together, and I think it's still the same that the central government basically couldn't even control the capital, not even a few, or maybe a few streets within the capital. And I mean, how do you run a country if you can't even control your capital? So I guess that is one symptom of the failed state. But what do you think is why is it so difficult for people to recognize the federal government? I mean, that government that the Western countries kind of negotiate with, and because for me, just as a thought, I mean, I always was thinking that yeah, if Somalia wants to be a member of the international, the world order, it has to be a country. There has to be a central bank. There has to be ministries. There has to be a head of state and all that, so that it can integrate itself into these systems. But then at the same time, I'm thinking that maybe, well, does every region in the world have to be a country? Who said that they have to? Or why can't you have different polities that are not really within the nation state? But what do you think about? I mean, how
If I
yeah.
the basic thing a state to do to be recognized as a state, there must be a country, there must be the land, the people, and the law and order, or state manipulation of the violence.
Yes, control the territory. Yeah.
Somalis, since the disintegration of the, the government, current government, cannot even, it's barely controlling Mogadishu, despite getting huge support, over $1 billion annually,
Yeah, it's lots of money.
to
Yes.
maintain law and order. Yeah, that's huge money, but it might be very small when you want to provide services like health, education, and salaries for the police, law and order, capacity building, all of that stuff. But however, a state that cannot control, manipulate the violence, a state that cannot collect tax, a state that cannot, reach across all the borders, should be difficult to move outside of Mogadishu. And if you look the other side, basically, we have Somaliland, which is a separate state, and it has its own currency, it has its own, police flag, its own elections. We
Yeah.
have one man, one vote elections, and over 1 million people have elected their president. We have some autonomous state of Portland, which always in conflict with the federal government of the resource sharing, and over the how the country's future will be shaped. And we have also other federal member states who are not even controlling the places that they claim to be states for.
Yeah.
And we have a terrorist group, which is a shadow government in Somalia. You know, the Al-Shabaab provides services including justice, tax collection, sometimes microfinance for the area they control. And the reason they are doing that is because of they are more connected to the local societies by recruiting young people, number one, and by enforcing people, you know, when you allow lawlessness,
Oh, we're breaking up. Sorry.
uh,
We need to. Ahmed, I think what we need to do, because now the
rebel
connections.
group,
I don't.
it's easy for your system to.
Yeah. I mean, I think because of I'm sure it's my connection here, but the connection, because we're recording from the screen, we thought that let's try that. But I
We
think
can reorganize another day. We can reorganize another day and
yeah,
use
because let's try to
basically.
figure, because this is too the stuff is too interesting to to uh, to have it, lost to technical issues. So let's do this. We will find a way to solve the connection problem. We'll probably have to sign up for one of these meeting tools so that we can record them properly. And but uh, uh, but just before we wrap up and try to find another date. Pa- pa- pa. What do you think? I mean, let's say that for the future of Somalia, how do you see that? Let's say the next, what is in store for Somalia? Let's say in the next couple of years, how do you see the country developing?
I think Somalia nowadays I could describe as a project country. You know, a project where some states or some organizations, local organizations. I'm in a meeting, bro. If you could let me. So basically, what happened is the absence of like accountability and transparency have
Yeah,
led the resources that has been invested to Somalia to be directly invested in places that has been designed for, and it ended up in the hands of different in the hands of other
yeah, it's not going where it's supposed to go.
looters of
Yes,
state.
yes.
So I think like Somalia could be lucky if it survive in the coming 10 years or 5 years. Basically, it may end up in the same way as Afghanistan in the hands of the terrorist groups. Maybe Somalia and Puntland save it, but I'm not sure if the southern part could be saved from terrorist groups because they are the
Right,
strongest shadow government that exists right now, even
right.
controlling the outskirts of Mogadishu. And if you look how committed they are to do their job and how the government, despite international support, is not committed,
Yeah,
to
no,
provide the service needed.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting parallel with Afghanistan. I think it's because, and what we were thinking, of course, as we were there, that these parallels are there. Okay, they're not. Maybe the Taliban it has a history of governance and is a bit of a different kind of thing than the Al Shabaab, which the question can be put whether they actually want to govern. Because now, let's say it's a different role to be a terrorist, and it's another role to actually be in power. So what if they take over? Do they even want to take over? Because okay, here's the keys to the presidential palace. Then next question is now what? How do we do this thing? So it's very interesting the
Yeah,
parallels, but we still have
absolutely.
a
That's
precedent. Afghanistan is
yeah,
there.
yeah, absolutely, Josie. That's what I was going to describe. Basically, what's happening is that if you look, Taliban, they had a good history of governance, and they had a political vision of controlling their own country rather than interfering with
Yes.
neighbors. But Al Shabaab is more worse than Taliban because they had a vision of establishing an Islamic, based on their interpretation, an Islamic state in the Horn of Africa and attacking the neighboring countries like Djibouti or they did already in Kenya from 1998. And they are well linked to terrorist groups like Al Qaeda. We have also ISIS in eastern parts of the country. So it seems that when Al Shabaab comes the country, they will invite other
Yeah.
global criminals, including the drug dealers, Al-Shabaab, terrorist groups, and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to. I would
So
guess. I mean, I'm not a fundamentalist nor am I a terrorist, but I would guess that it's easier to be, just to blow stuff up and disrupt everything rather than actually try to build a nation. Maybe at the local level, like you said, Al Shabaab, of course, they have support, but then how to govern a state if you want it to be like that.
But will that, yeah, the question is, do they have the capacity to build a state, whatever sort, or will the people accept building it for them? I see that for them, they don't have, capacity to establish a state. We know their leaders, we know the background of their leaders. None of them ever had attended a school. While Taliban people, most of them are Western, some of them graduated one of the best schools in global West. And if you look, the Somali people, the sector of Somali communities uniquely, it's crime-based uniquely. So basically, when you look, if Al-Shabaab take over Mogadishu, for instance, today, will they be able to govern Mogadishu? I think no, because they might be able to hit someone who is foreign, or they might impose revolutionary women, how they're going to dress, or NGOs, how they're going to work, or will they hire, qualified females? They might impose such revolutions to the foreign non-governmental organizations, but they will never be able to govern it because people are struggling in clans.
Yeah, and also if you think of, I mean, let's say that they take over. Of course, they will be an illegitimate power, so they'll have a war on their hands. They have already, but it will be even more. And we saw it with ISIS. I mean, yeah, you can say that, okay, now we have a ministry, now we have our own stamps, and we run the place. But if you're rejected by the international community, is the one with the guns, they will come after you and try to govern a space within those conditions. It's even, I can't imagine even doing it when the conditions are there. It's almost, well, not impossible, but it's very difficult. Now imagine if somebody's actually waging war against you, then how do you do it? So difficult.
Yeah, that could be tough, basically. That could be tough. And I say, like, okay, Al Shabaab, for instance, let's say Al Shabaab has, captured Mogadishu and its outskirts, and then the fast scene now they claim that they are fighting with interventionists, the Amazon or international communities, and intervening in their country. So they are dealing, they have a slogan of freedom fighters, but let's say the Amazon has pulled out and it's only the Somalis who's there. Will Al-Shabaab be able to govern? Of course, no, because Somalis are a certain clan. So there are certain clans that are more owned to Al-Shabaab than other clans, for instance. So will someone from Clan X, for instance, from Bosaso, will be able to govern or face first? Never, because Somalis are more loyal to their clans than the organizations they serve for. So what I see is that another chaos will start, the reason behind establishment of AMISOM and intervention of Somalia was not at the beginning even to establish a state for Somalia. It was to use a political of containment, like don't let this to spread across the region, across the border. The most has, it seems that even the world will not have, though it's very cost, and it become a permanent cost, like now for about 34 years, there's a money invested to Somalia just to get a state, but nothing has been get. Can the world pull out? And if they pull out, what will happen? Knowing that Somalia occupies the longest coastal line of Africa, and back days we had a UN mission, to patrol the maritime and Paris attacks in the Gulf area between 1991 to 1994, and later on, when the UN mission has pulled out, the virus has started again, and and it reached its highest peak in 2011, and the world was forced to establish counter Paris programs like EU-NAVFOR, and if EU-NAVFOR and other missions pull out, then the global economy will not be able to survive in the whole of Africa. And Somalis, Paris, Al-Shabaab and ISIS.
Challenges everywhere. So, but let's we're coming to 30 minutes now. So let's just I think we need to cut here and then we resume because we fixed the connection and we fixed all the technical stuff. But I think for our first run, I mean, we've covered hoped about, but it's good because now we can think of. And I mean, I was thinking that we can do one episode per country, but of course it's not like that. There's so many different themes that we need to break this up into
Yeah,
subtopics and then
yeah, absolutely.
get more guests. All
If
that.
we try to discuss the issue of Somalia, we can talk all the day without getting,
Another night.
conclusion.
Yes,
And,
yes.
yeah.
Good.
Basically, so the presence of different armed groups, known and unknown. We only know Al-Shabaab, we only know IS, but there are individuals who are armed and more stronger even than the government,
Warlords,
and
yes.
not loyal to the
Religious
government.
warlords, I guess.
Warlords, and self-serving leaders, like if you look, one controlling a certain area and deny whatever the government pushes to him. And if you look all of that, it seems like we can talk all the day without getting a conclusion. But
Yeah.
if we summarize
Let's do that. I
this
mean,
integration of Somalia.
let's talk all the day. Why not? Why not? One thing because I think it's a good thing with this format. We're not on television, so we could just you've seen Joe Rogan or these other ones. 5 hours, nothing.
Yeah.
You can talk for as long as you want. And amazingly, people do listen. If the stuff is good, okay. I'm not saying that Joe Rogan stuff is good, but if the stuff is good, people listen. And it's anyway. It's been fascinating to catch up with you, and we'll have to talk more. We'll have to talk more another time. So thank you. You're in Dublin.
On the
Right?
next episode.
You're in Dublin right now.
Yeah, I'm in Dublin.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Dublin.
Yeah. So anyway, so we'll talk another time. Huh? Ciao.
Thank you, John. Bye.